Hello, good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're checking this out. Welcome to the last lesson of this week. Yesterday and on Tuesday we learned about slope and y-intercept, and today we're combining those two lessons into one. So yesterday we talked about what is the y-intercept. So I want to know, what is the y-intercept of this equation right here? And hopefully, if you had watched yesterday's lesson, or you were with me, you know it's the number that's on its own. This minus 5 is my y-intercept. And that is going to be something super helpful today. So what we were actually looking at here is an equation that we call slope-intercept form. And this is a great form that we use when we're graphing lines. So you've already told me that right here, this minus 5 is the y-intercept. So between M and B, which of these letters represents the y-intercept? B. So B is our y-intercept, or our initial value, and M represents our slope. So our rise over run, or our y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1, however you want to think about it. Oh my goodness, I can't. It's not letting me write. Rise over run. Okay, so now you know the two parts of the y-intercept equation. Now, the other thing you see here is the x and the y. Now, what the x and the y represents, let me do this in a different color, is just an xy ordered pair. So that just represents some point that is on your line, okay? The ones that we're going to focus on today are the M and the B. That is what you need to be able to graph the line. So graphing equations in slope-intercept form. So if I were to give you this equation and I asked you to graph this line, there are some steps that we can follow. We want to identify the slope, identify the y-intercept, and then we're going to start by plotting the y-intercept. Excuse me. Okay. Now, first things first, identifying the slope. So again, the slope is my M, so the 3 is my slope here. But remember, when we're graphing, slope is rise over run. Right now I just see one number, so how am I supposed to use that for a slope? If there's not a number underneath it, what number can I imagine is there? A 1. So when I write, if I see a whole number here with no number underneath, if I ask you what the slope is, let's write it as a fraction, because then it's a lot easier for me to see my rise over my run. My rise is 3, my run is 1. Okay, now let's go ahead and identify the y-intercept. And that was -4. Okay, and then the first thing we're going to do is plot the y-intercept. If you remember from yesterday, we can say the y-intercept is our initial value or our starting value. So that is where we want to start our graph. So again, remember our y-intercept is where the line crosses our y-axis. So where is -4? Let me label this again. So this is y, this is x. -4 is right here. So that is the starting point of my graph. And now we can use our slope to do our next point. So again, this is my rise over my run. So I'm going to rise 3, 1, 2, 3, run 1, plot my point. And then the last thing you want to do is connect those with a line. And make sure you draw arrows at the end, because this line is going forever and ever. Alright, make sure you have this down. We'll do 2 more together, and then we'll head on to the next part of our notes for today. Pause me if you need to. All right, I'll model one more, and then I want you to try this one on your own. Okay, so we have y equals 2/3 x plus 2. All right, which one was my y-intercept here? The 2. And remember, that's our starting point. So let's go ahead and make a point here at 2. So again, remember, that's where our line crosses our y-axis. So that is right here at 2. Okay, and then that means that this is my slope. Oh my goodness gracious, why isn't my finger working? Sorry, I'm trying. Okay, so 2/3. And again, remember that is rise over run. So from here, I can rise 2, 1, 2, and then run 3, 1, 2, 3. Make a point. And if you wanted to, you could keep going. Again, I could rise 2, 1, 2, run 3. And then lastly, connect those with a line. And then draw your arrows at the end. All right, I want you to go ahead and give this one a try. So identify the y-intercept, go ahead and plot that point. Take your slope, make sure you write it as a fraction, so just like this one, it's a whole number, so you'll want to draw a 1 underneath it. And then plot your point, and graph your line. Come back and unpause me when you're ready to check your answer. Alrighty, so same thing. That -8 there was your y-intercept. It's that number by itself. So we're going to make a line on our y-axis here, and we're going to draw a dot at -8. And then this -1 was my slope, but remember we want to write a 1 underneath it because now I can see what my rise is, and I can see what my run is. So if my rise was -1, does that mean I should be going up 1 box or down 1 box? Down 1 box. So we can go down and over. Down and over 1. And there's your line. Okay, cool. Now there is something I want to mention really quick. So for here, we had the -1 and we just quickly drew a 1 underneath it. Now, what I want you to know is that this negative could go to either of these numbers here. Okay? So look at this line that we have so far. You can keep this on your screen and just watch me as I show you what else you could do. So instead of giving that negative to that top one, we could give it to that bottom one here. Your answer, this still equals -1. It doesn't matter whether the negative sign is on the top or the bottom, this equals the same thing. But now we can start with a point at -8 right here. Rise is a +1. Let me redo that point here with my green. So we had -8. So now rise is a +1, so we can go up 1 right here. Oh, that's why it didn't work. Sorry. My explanation is unclear right now because the struggle is real. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, so we have a point at -8. So we're going to rise 1 and then run -1. So the difference here is since we're running negatively, we can run to the left and make a point right here. But that gives us the same graph. We're going down and over 1 to the right each time. Okay, so if you have a fraction, it does not matter which number you give the negative sign to. Okay, cool. On to the next set of notes here. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form if I give you the graph. So from our equations, we needed two things to graph our line, right? We needed to identify the y-intercept, and we needed to identify the slope. We need the same two things here to write the equation, okay? And y'all were doing this yesterday in your independent practice and on your mastery check. You already practiced telling me what the slope was and what the y-intercept was from a graph given. So let me model this for you here. Okay, so let's go ahead and find the slope. I see a clear point here and here. So that means I have to go up 1 over 2. So my rise is 1 over 2. And then we have to find our y-intercept, where the line crosses that y-axis, which is right here, at one box below. So that means my y-intercept was -1. And now the only new step we're adding in is we're actually writing the equation. So remember, our equation looks like y equals mx plus b. I'm going to write that here really quick so we can look at this. Where y and the x are just from an ordered pair, and we just have to plug in m and b. So we're going to put this m here where m is, and we're going to put the b here where b is. So we're going to have y equals 1/2 x and then plus b. So you could either write this as plus, remember b is a -1, or you could write it just as -1. And there you have it, the equation of your line. So again, two things we need: slope, y-intercept, and then plug them in where they go. Make sure you have this. Pause me if you need it. All right, I want you to try it. So like I said, yesterday you did this. Yesterday you found the slope, you found the y-intercept. The only new thing is you're plugging them into your equation here. So go ahead and try this problem, create your equation, and then come back and check your answer when you're done. Alrighty, so let's go ahead. I see my line crossing my y-axis right here at 2. And now let's go ahead and find our slope. So I'm going to go from this point here to this point. So I had to go down 1, so that's -1. 1, 2, 3. Rise was -1 over my run of 3. And then now we plug them in. So again, there's my equation. Plug in the -3 where 1 over -3 where m is, the 2 where b is. So we have y equals -1/3 x plus 2. Awesome. All right, check your work, make sure you got it right. If you didn't, see what you did wrong, see if you can fix it, and try it again. All right, so for your independent practice, what you're starting with is just looking at these and identifying what your slope and your y-intercept are, and then we get into the heavy-duty stuff. So you have two equations here: find your y-intercept, your slope, and then graph. Here, you're finding your slope and your y-intercept, creating the equation, graphing, and then coming up with the equation again. And then we'll head into the mastery check. All right, go ahead and give these a whirl. You need to finish all of them because these are all just like these ones we did together. And then complete your mastery check. Let me know when you're finished. Have a great day.